Hello family. Welcome to Brandon Tales, your home for gripping African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Now sit back and enjoy the drama. Nathan sipped stale coffee in a cramped study that was half lit by dawn's gray glow. He stared at the blank page on his laptop screen, willing words to come. The hum of his old refrigerator in the kitchenette down the hall mixed with the distant chirp of early birds outside. Writer's block had chased him for weeks, leaving him trapped in an echo of silence and frustration. He rubbed his temples, massaging the tension above his eyebrows, and wondered how much longer he could go without a breakthrough. Then he heard it, a single, polite knock at the front door. Too measured to be urgent, too timely for a salesman. He frowned. Visitors arrived rarely. On Sundays, nobody disturbed him, certainly not at 8 on the dot. He rose, stretched his arms, and walked toward the door. His slippers shuffled across the creaky wooden floor, each step a reminder of every sleepless night spent chasing inspiration that refused to appear. He opened the door to find a woman standing there, silhouetted by the pale morning light. Dark curls escaped from a messy bun, and her cheeks were faintly flushed. She gripped a chipped white measuring cup with both hands. Her eyes were wide, anxious, yet hopeful, like she was on the verge of saying something important but uncertain which words to choose first. "Excuse me," she said, voice trembling just slightly. "I know this is random, but do you have any sugar I could borrow?" Nathan blinked. "Sugar?" He glanced at the cup, then back at her. "You mean actual sugar?" The absurdity of borrowing a measuring cup full of sugar, as though he was her personal grocery store, made his chest ache with amusement. She offered a nervous laugh and held up the cup. "I just moved in next door, and my pantry is still empty. I ran out of sugar while baking bread yesterday. This is my grandmother's measuring cup. She'd kill me if I lost it. I'm Layla." She thrust the cup forward. He hesitated, unsure if he should invite a stranger inside. But something about her vulnerability cracked his reserve. He stepped aside. "I'm Nathan. Come in. I'll get you some sugar." She smiled with relief and stepped into the hallway. The stale scent of old paper and lingering coffee greeted her as the door closed behind her. He led her to the narrow kitchen and opened an old wooden cabinet. From a jar of cubes he scooped a few into her cup. Her hand shook slightly as she accepted it. "Thank you," she said, scanning the room. Eye bags shadowed her eyes, hinting at sleepless nights of her own. "You really didn't have to invite me in." He shrugged. "It's nothing." He gestured to a small table by the window. "You can rest it here?" She set the cup down and looked around. Her gaze fell on a framed photograph propped on a shelf. Nathan and a beautiful woman smiling on a sunlit beach. She opened her mouth, then paused. "Is this your wife?" He froze, heat rising to his cheeks. She was. "Marla." His voice was hushed, careful. "She died 3 years ago." A shadow flickered across her face. "I'm sorry." She stepped back as though burned by the memory. "I didn't mean. I'm sorry." He looked away, reaching for his own mug of coffee on the counter. Instead of finding milk, he stared at the fading lines on Marla's smiling face. He closed his eyes for a moment. The photograph captured both joy and loss, a testament to a life cut short. Layla cleared her throat. "I should go. I'll leave your cup on the porch." Her voice trembled. He gestured toward the living room. "Actually, would you mind sitting for a moment? I have water." He filled a glass from the tap and handed it to her. She accepted it gratefully and sat on a threadbare couch. Nathan returned to the kitchen and poured himself another coffee, then joined her. "Thanks," she said, her voice quieter. "This neighborhood is nice, but I didn't expect to be so unprepared." He watched her stir her water. "What brings you here besides sugar?" She laughed softly, a sound tinged with embarrassment. "Perfect question. I'm a researcher starting at the university downtown. I moved into 17 Elm Street yesterday. Boxes everywhere. I'm a mess." Her sincerity was disarming. Nathan nodded. "Welcome to the neighborhood." They fell into awkward conversation. She asked about his job, and he deflected. He asked about her life, and she talked about her work with local archives. Layla's eyes sparkled when describing old photographs and family histories. He relaxed under her excitement, as though her passion offered a refuge from his own creative drought. Then, as she rose to leave, she paused before the photograph again. "Your wife," her voice caught. She had such warmth. "You both look so happy." His gaze followed hers. "We were." His voice cracked. He cleared his throat. "Marla loved the beach. Took that photo the day before we found out we were going to be parents." Layla's eyes misted. "I'm sorry for your loss. Truly." He nodded, swallowing. "Thank you." He walked her to the door, where she collected her cup. He hesitated. "If you ever need anything, you know where I live." She held his gaze, gratitude shining in her dark eyes. "I appreciate that." She stepped outside. Nathan closed the door, turning the knob with an unexpected finality. He leaned against the doorframe, heart racing. Something about Layla unsettled him, as though her appearance was not a coincidence but a summons. He shook his head and returned to his study, only to find the blank page on his laptop felt less oppressive than before. Words flickered at the edge of his mind, daring him to write again. Outside, Layla walked back toward her house, clutching the measuring cup. She paused on her front porch and looked back at Nathan's window. She pressed a hand to her mouth, catching her breath. In her palm lay an old photograph, one she had slipped into her bag earlier. It showed her younger sister, Erin, standing near the same beach, smiling at the camera. Erin had died in that same hit-and-run 3 years ago. Layla's eyes filled with tears. She whispered to the empty air, "I'm so sorry, Marla." Then she turned and entered her house, heart pounding. She placed the cup down and, with trembling fingers, retrieved a small flash drive. She stared at the label, EB Records. The weight of its contents pressed on her soul. She remembered Erin's last words, "Promise me you'll find him." Layla inhaled, squared her shoulders, and resolved to keep her promise. The game had begun. Back in his study, Nathan sat before the laptop, fingers poised above the keyboard. The memory of Layla's hesitant smile and those curious eyes fueled a spark. For the first time in weeks, the cursor blinked with possibility. The story felt alive already, more vivid than anything he had attempted recently. The weight of grief receded enough to let creation take hold. Meanwhile, inside her own sparse apartment, Layla pressed the sleeve of her jacket to her mouth. She waited until the world was silent, then stood in front of a small mirror. She traced the faint scar on her wrist, a memento from the night Erin was taken. Tears blurred her vision. Erin had recorded every detail before she died, every whispered confession, every regret. Layla vowed to honor her sister by uncovering the truth. As rain began to patter against her window, Layla retrieved a packet of worn letters and the USB drive labeled EB Records. Tomorrow she would return, with more than sugar. She exhaled, steeling herself against the coming storm. Firmly. A crisp breeze rattled the wind chimes outside Nathan's porch as he stared at his laptop screen, the blinking cursor mocking his stalled progress. He reread the prologue to his next novel, an unnamed character in search of redemption, wondering if he'd ever escape his own grief to write again. A second, more deliberate knock at the front door jolted him from his thoughts. He rubbed his eyes, then rose, heart thumping with a strange mix of anticipation and dread. He opened the door to find Layla standing there, the chipped measuring cup clutched gently in her hands. Her knuckles were white around the handle, as though she feared it might shatter under her grip. She offered him a wry, apologetic smile. "I know you said I could leave it on the porch, but I realized it might be yours? I wanted to return it properly." Nathan blinked. "You really don't have to," he caught himself, then softened. "Come in if you like." He stepped aside and motioned for her to enter. "I was just staring at the same page for 20 minutes, he admitted, nodding toward his laptop. "Might as well get a fresh perspective." Layla crossed the threshold, setting the cup on a side table by the window. She looked around the living room, the scattered drafts, the half-empty coffee mugs, the photograph of Nathan with Marla on the mantel. She inhaled slowly as though steeling herself. "You right here?" she asked, nodding at the laptop. He shrugged. I try. When the words come. He settled on the couch opposite her and sighed. Most days they don't. She offered him a sympathetic glance. I know a bit about block, she said gently. Group projects in college, deadlines, that sinking feeling when the page is blank. He leaned back, arms spread along the backrest. Blank feels safe, he confessed. It hides the pain. She plucked at the sleeve of her sweater. Do you mind if I ask about that photo? She gestured toward the framed picture. Rainbows of light danced across the glass from the prism hanging by the window. He stiffened but nodded. That's Marla. My wife. She exhaled. She looked radiant. Her voice trembled. You two seemed happy. Nostalgic, yes. His voice was flat. She died 3 years ago. Hit and run. Never solved. Layla's throat worked. I'm sorry. She clasped her hands in her lap. I don't usually ask, but strangers don't ask about ghosts. He stared at her for a long moment. Ghosts? He echoed. She ducked her head. I read once that people treat grief like a ghost. They ignore it, pretend it's not there, hope it goes away. But if you never acknowledge it, the ghost hungers. He frowned, intrigued despite himself. Where'd you hear that? An old professor of mine. He said sometimes the living need a visitor to confront their ghosts. Nathan's heart skipped. You believe that? Layla shrugged. I believe in knocking on doors. Sometimes you find answers you never expected. A thump sounded behind him. He turned as an old wooden drawer in the corner of the room wobbled and fell open, spilling a stack of yellowed envelopes onto the carpet. Nathan frowned. I didn't leave that open. Layla hurried to her feet. I'm so sorry. She knelt and began gathering the letters. Let me help. Her movement drew her attention to the topmost envelope. She froze. The jagged handwriting read, Marla Jameson. Her breath caught. She looked at Nathan, then back at the envelope. Her fingers trembled as she traced the name. Marla Jameson, she whispered, voice thin with disbelief. Nathan stood, concern darkening his face. Yes. She swallowed hard and rose, clutching the letter to her chest. It was on my desk. She looked panicked as though the walls were closing in. I don't know why it's here. I swear I didn't. Nathan crossed the room swiftly. Layla, what is it? She held her distance, eyes wide. I found these letters at home, in a box my sister left behind. She pressed a hand to her mouth. I have a sister named Erin. Erin Barlow. She disappeared in a car accident 3 years ago. I came here thinking maybe just to borrow sugar, but this envelope with her name on it. Nathan's pulse hammered. Your sister was Marla's friend? I didn't know. Tears glistened on her lashes. None of it makes sense, Nathan. I came here because I remembered the photograph and your kindness. But why would I have letters addressed to Marla? He took a calming breath. Let's sit down. He guided her to the couch and sat close beside her. Start at the beginning. What letters did you have? She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. It was a box of correspondence, my sister's private journal in paper form. She wrote to Marla. She said she wanted to apologize, but I never saw the letters before she died. I thought they were old drafts filed away. I never read them. He frowned. You never opened them? Layla shook her head. I was too scared? Scared of what? He pressed. Her gaze fell to her hands. That I'd find something that would break me. She swallowed. And she was passionate. She recorded everything, on tape, email, letters. She died of leukemia 6 months after the accident. Before she passed, she said to give her records to the person most affected. Only truth can set things right, she said. A chill washed over Nathan. Truth. Layla nodded, voice small. But I hid them. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I thought maybe the past should stay buried. He ran a hand through his hair. Your sister's accident, same stretch of highway Marla was hit? She closed her eyes. Yes. The night Erin died, she'd had a minor collision, no one was hurt. But she stopped at the scene of the major accident. She recorded what she saw. She was trying to help the victim. She never shared the recording. Nathan's breath caught. Marla was the victim. Layla's lips trembled. I'm so sorry. I didn't know until I saw that envelope with your wife's name. He stared at her, heart pounding. You've been carrying this box and that USB drive? He pointed to the small drive peeking out from Layla's pocket. She nodded, voice cracking. I wanted to do the right thing. I kept it hidden, afraid of what I'd learn. Nathan's chest tightened. What do you know? She fumbled the drive into his hand. Everything Aaron collected, dashcam footage, voicemail messages, confessions. Aaron was convinced she saw the driver's face in her rearview mirror, but she didn't know who it was. She named no one. He stared at the drive, mind racing. Why come here? Why knock on my door? Her gaze met his. I needed to know if you wanted the truth. I thought you might still be looking. He shook his head. I stopped looking after a while. It was too painful. He swallowed. But I owe it to her. Layla exhaled a shuddering breath. Let me help you, Nathan. Please. He opened his mouth, ready to refuse, then closed it. His grief, so carefully shelved, stirred at her offer. To confront the past alone felt impossible now. Okay, he whispered. Let's see what Aaron recorded. She reached for her bag and pulled out a small laptop. Together, they connected the USB drive. Files filled the screen, folders labeled dashcam, audio logs, emails. Nathan clicked dashcam, and the first video flickered to life. A dark highway, rain streaking the windshield. In the distance, headlights carved through the night. He leaned forward, breath shallow. Layla's voice trembled. That's Aaron's cam. He watched as headlights zoomed past, then a shadowy form darted into view. A car swerved violently. The screen went white as the collision happened. Silence followed, punctuated only by raindrops and the dull thud of metal. He closed his eyes, remembering Marla's last moments. A sudden ping alerted him, an email file. He clicked it. The subject line read, I'm sorry. The body contained a draft confession. I never meant to harm her. It was an accident. The sentence trailed off. Nathan's world spun. He looked at Layla. These files, they name no one? She shook her head. Not yet. But there's more. He exhaled, voice barely audible. I thought I knew everything about her death. Layla reached out and touched his arm gently. Maybe Aaron knew more than you. He closed the laptop, hands trembling. I have to know. He met her eyes. Will you stay? I don't want to go through this alone. Tears glinted in her eyes as she nodded. I'll stay. He stood and extended his hand. Then let's dig deeper. Outside, dusk settled and the wind picked up. Inside, two strangers bound by grief and the promise of truth prepared to face the ghosts they had long denied. And Nathan realized that some knocks were meant to break barriers, not just open doors. They sat back down, side by side, and plunged into Aaron's secrets, determined to unearth the facts buried by silence, and find the driver who haunted them both. Nathan woke before dawn, the house silent save for the low hum of the furnace. Last night's discoveries swirled in his mind like autumn leaves in a gust. He had barely slept, haunted by Aaron's footage and the possibility that the truth might be darker than he feared. His fingers hovered over the keys, longing to write, yet frozen by uncertainty. He pushed away from the desk and stood, pacing the small study, every creak of the floorboards echoing in his ears. He had questions, too many questions, and the only person who could answer them sat somewhere behind that door. But when he opened his mouth to call out, his voice caught. Instead, he gathered courage and strode to the front. The door opened before he reached it, and there she stood, Layla, holding a pie plate neatly covered in aluminum foil. Steam curled from the edges, carrying the warm scent of cinnamon and apples. She offered a tentative smile. I thought you might like some real food, she said softly. Her dark eyes held a mixture of determination and vulnerability. I made too much, and well, you must be starving after yesterday. He blinked, surprised by the aroma and her gesture. Thank you, he replied, stepping aside. Come in. In the kitchen, he removed the foil, revealing the crust, a flawless golden braid encircling tender fruit. Layla watched him carefully. Each of her movements seemed deliberate, as though she feared missteps might shatter the fragile truce between them. Nathan carried 2 plates to the dining table by the window. Rain pattered gently against the glass. He handed one to Layla. She hesitated, then accepted it. They sat, the quiet punctuated only by the clink of cutlery. He watched her take a bite. "This is incredible," he said. "Thank you." She nodded, her eyes fixed on the table. "I used my grandmother's recipe," she whispered. "It's the only thing that grounds me." He followed her gaze. She wore a silver locket at her collarbone, an oval engraved with initials he did not recognize. Her eyes flicked up to his face. "The locket? Is that Aaron's?" Layla froze, hand midair. She swallowed. "Yes." She wore it every day. She brushed a strand of hair from her face. "She wanted me to have it." Nathan rested his fork. "I've been looking into you," he confessed, voice low. "Your social media, public records. I found almost nothing before 10 months ago." Her eyes filled with regret. "I didn't want anyone digging." He studied her. "Why move into this town, into this house, then hide your past?" Her voice trembled. "Because I needed closure, and because I was afraid." He leaned forward. "Afraid of what?" She took a deep breath. "Afraid that if the person who caused Marla's death found out I had answers, they would silence me. Or that I would hate your wife more for discovering the truth." Nathan's breath caught. "Hate my wife?" She shook her head. "No. The opposite. I didn't want to be angry at her ghost. I wanted forgiveness." He stared at her, surprised. "Forgiveness for what?" She closed her eyes, voice quivering. "For not protecting her." Aaron was driving that night. The little collision she had earlier left her shaken. She pulled over and saw Marla's car wrecked by the roadside. She tried to help but panicked when she saw a familiar face stepping out of the passenger door. She fled. Nathan's heart pounded. The words hit him like a blow. She fled. Layla nodded, tears brimming. She drove off in fear. She never meant to abandon her. She was scared, afraid of the consequences. She recorded everything, planning to turn herself in. But she was diagnosed with leukemia soon after. She never got the chance. He stared, mouth dry. "So your sister was the driver?" Layla's head shook. She wasn't the driver. She was a good Samaritan. She saw Marla alive in the wreck, tried to help her. She didn't cause it, she was a witness. Nathan felt his palms sweat. "Then who?" His voice trailed off. Layla set down her fork and searched his face. "I always assumed Marla's accident was random," she said. "When Aaron died, I found her box of letters and recordings. But I couldn't bring myself to listen, to open the wound." Nathan crossed to the window and pressed his hand against the cool pane. Outside, the storm clouds gathered, reflecting his tumult. "I thought it was random too," he confessed. "But now, with Aaron's footage, everything feels uncertain." She rose and placed a hand on his arm. "I'm sorry. I never meant to withhold the truth." He turned to her, eyes haunted. "The truth, it's all I have now." He inhaled, trying to steady himself. "Your sister held the answers. But something still doesn't add up." Her gaze dropped. "I know." He exhaled, voice low. "Tell me," he urged gently, "what else did Aaron record?" Layla opened her mouth, then closed her eyes. She shook her head. "There's more, emails, notes, but I couldn't face them alone. You deserve to know everything, but I need proof." He stepped back, heart racing. "I need to know, Layla." His voice quavered. "I need the full story." She nodded, hesitant. "I'll bring it to you. But not today." He swallowed, nodding. "Tomorrow then." They bowed their heads, letting silence fill the space. An uneasy truce formed, a fragile promise of shared purpose. Layla dropped a look at the shattered glass on the floor. "I should clean this up," she murmured. Nathan waved her off. "It's my mess." He bent down, picking up a shard. "They say glass reflects the soul." Layla's brow furrowed. Then mine must be cracked. He stood, brushing crumbs from his jeans. We all are. She managed a small, sad smile. Then maybe we can piece each other back together. He nodded, but his mind reeled. Every secret revealed only deepened the darkness. He looked at the locket. His pulse thrummed unmistakably in his temples as he backed away from the shattered fragments, heavy indignation and fear coiling together in his chest. Every vivid flash of memory, Marla's joyful laughter in the passenger seat, Aaron's whisper on the tape, the echo of screeching tires, merged into a dizzying, resonant kaleidoscope. He gripped the edge of the counter, knuckles white, while shards of glass caught light like tiny accusations. The air felt thick, as though the walls themselves whispered secrets he was not yet ready to hear. Layla's silken hair lifted in a sudden draft. Her eyes fluttered, reflecting his turmoil. He felt his chest heave with each breath, and kitchen light flickered overhead, revealing what lay ahead. A bead of sweat trickled down his temple, and every sense sharpened in the silence around him. The rain pounded the window panes, each drop a pulse of impending revelation. Lightning bathed the kitchen in stark white bursts, thunder rattling every utensil. He closed his eyes, breathing rapidly, gathering his courage. When he opened them, he met Layla's gaze and asked, "Could your sister have been the driver that night?" Nathan stood alone in the dim glow of the garage light, its single bulb swinging gently overhead like a pendulum measuring his hesitation. Old toolboxes lined one wall, and beside them, a battered filing cabinet held relics of another life, Marla's life. He swallowed hard, every breath a taste of dust and memory, then knelt before the low cabinet. His fingers trembled as he pulled open the top drawer. Inside lay folders of yellowed paper, police reports, witness statements, forensic analyses. He drew in a ragged breath. Here lay the truth he had long feared to face. He slid one folder free and flipped it open. The heading read, "Hit and Run Investigation, Marla Jameson." Beneath, typed pages detailed tire skid patterns, road conditions, witness accounts. He traced the margin notes in faded blue ink. Unidentified vehicle. No sign of driver involvement. He shivered. Whoever had written those words had never seen what Aaron had recorded, a secret buried until now. He rifled through witness statements. A neighbor reported hearing squealing tires. Another described headlights swerving wildly. But none mentioned seeing a passenger. None hinted at motive. His pulse pounded as he imagined Aaron's fear when she saw the passenger strike out from the car. He looked down at his shaking hands. He closed his eyes, picturing Marla's final moments, that surreal blur of metal and motion, the world collapsing into agonized stillness. A loose envelope slipped from between the pages. He opened it, Aaron's juvenile record, sealed by court order. The name on the header, Aaron Barlow. He stared, heart racing. A notation in red marker read, "Unsealed in case of victim's request." He blinked, astonished. Someone had authorized the file to be opened. He flipped it over for details. Last known address, 17 Elm Street. The same address where Layla now lived. Nathan's breath hitched. He sank to the floor, pressing his back against the cabinet. The dim light caught the corner of Aaron's address, and the spinning world stilled in his mind. His fist clenched the file. If Aaron's record had been sealed, why was it here? Who had unsealed it? And more pressingly, why did his neighbor's sister, Layla, have access to it? Every question felt like a weight pressing him deeper into the silence. He scrambled upright and slammed the drawer closed, startling himself. Then, with a sudden urgency, he yanked open the second drawer. A dusty binder marked Jameson case files slid free. He hauled it to the workbench and flipped through his wife's case notebook. A police-issued notebook full of scribbles, hand-drawn diagrams of the accident scene, lists of potential suspects, names crossed out as alibied. His eyes darted over notation after notation until he reached a page listing witness leads. Beneath, in textbook handwriting, was a note. Possible witness, Barlow. Age 16 at time of accident. He blinked. The line had been erased and rewritten twice. Someone had tried to hide it. His heart thundered. He thumbed through the notebook backward until he found a dated entry, Interview scheduled with the Barlow's guardian. The date, 3 weeks after Marla's accident. His hands shook as he read margin commentary. Guardian refused interview. No further pursuit. A second notation, scrawled hastily in black pen. File sealed. He slammed the binder shut, adrenaline flooding his veins. He backed away, panting. Layla's face flashed before him, her haunted eyes, her trembling voice. She had arrived at his door claiming innocence, but this evidence painted a different picture. Aaron had been a key witness, but her account was dismissed and her record sealed. Who had orchestrated that? And why had Aaron's recordings, dashcam footage, audio logs, never reached the police? Nathan shook his head, furious that Marla's justice had been denied. He rifled through the cabinet once more, looking for the missing notebook that Layla had mentioned, a small flash drive marked EB Records. It wasn't in the filing cabinet. He exhaled, rubbing his temples. If it wasn't here, it meant Layla still had it. Nathan realized he needed to confront her directly, to demand answers. He glanced at his watch. Past midnight. Under the yellow light, every shadow looked ominous. He closed the garage door with a clang that shook the walls, then headed back to the house, filing cabinet key clutched in his pocket. His mind raced. He needed Layla's flash drive, Aaron's unfiltered testimony, every scrap of evidence that she possessed. Only by comparing it to these official files could he piece together the real story. Dawn broke with a gentle chorus of birdsong. Nathan awoke with his heart pounding, drenched in sweat. Rays of sunlight spilled through the curtains, painting the bedroom in warm gold. He sat on the edge of the bed, mind still racing from last night's discoveries. The sealed juvenile record, the erased witness lead, it all pointed to a cover-up. And now he knew where the hidden answers lay. He dressed quickly and grabbed a notebook from the desk, flipping it open to a blank page. He jotted bullet points. 1. Aaron's dashcam footage. 2. Sealed juvenile record. 3. Erased witness lead. 4. Layla's flash drive. Beneath, he wrote in capital letters, "Confront Layla." He paused at the bedroom door, glancing at Marla's framed photo on the nightstand. Marla's face looked serene, oblivious to the turmoil swirling around her death. Nathan felt a pang of guilt. He had avoided this fight for so long. But Marla deserved the truth. In the kitchen, Layla stood by the counter, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. She looked up as Nathan entered, her expression guarded. She wore the same silver locket Aaron had given her. The fledgling light highlighted the anxious crease between her brows. "Morning," he said, voice steady. She offered a small nod. "Morning." He crossed to the counter and accepted a mug of coffee. He inhaled the rich aroma, letting it steady him. "Layla," he began, voice soft but firm, "we need to talk." She stiffened, setting her mug down. "About last night?" He held the filing cabinet key in his hand. "About everything." Layla's gaze flicked to his hand. His heart thudded. She swallowed. "Okay." He led her to the living room and motioned to the sofa. "Sit." She perched at the edge, her spine rigid. Nathan sat opposite. He placed the key on the coffee table. "I went through Marla's case files last night." Her breath hitched. "You found something?" He lifted the juvenile record envelope. This sealed file, Aaron Barlow. It had her age and address. It was key to the investigation, but it was sealed without my approval. And I found Aaron was scheduled for an interview that never happened. Layla's eyes brimmed. She bit her lip. "I'm sorry. I thought I was protecting you." "In protecting me?" Nathan's question came out sharper than intended. He took a breath. "Your sister was a witness." Aaron had information that could have broken the case wide open. He paused, letting his words sink in. "I need that information." Her lips trembled. "I know." She reached into her pocket and withdrew the small flash drive labeled EB Records. She placed it on the table before him. "It's all here." He nodded, picking up the drive. His pulse raced as he imagined the footage, the recordings, the untainted truth. He closed his eyes. The moment felt like the hinge on which his life had turned. He opened his eyes and looked at Layla, who sat rigid, tears sliding down her cheeks. Why didn't you give this to me earlier? He asked quietly. She exhaled, voice barely above a whisper. I was afraid of what I'd learn. Afraid of who might be named. Nathan leaned forward, voice low. Who are you afraid of? Layla's gaze flickered to the coffee table and back. She drew in a trembling breath. I think my sister's recordings name someone you trust. His heart lurched. Who? She closed her eyes, mouth quivering. For a moment, no sound filled the room. Then she whispered, Jeremy. Nathan's vision narrowed. Jeremy, his oldest friend. The man who had offered comfort after Marla's funeral. The man he had trusted above all. Layla's words reverberated through him like thunder. She met his gaze, eyes shimmering with sorrow. I wanted to protect you from that. I didn't want to believe it myself. He sat back, mind racing. The drive felt heavy in his hand, as though laden with betrayal. He felt the world tilt. Marla's death had been a wound he'd learned to hide, but Jeremy's betrayal cut deeper. Layla swallowed hard. I've been trying to make it right ever since. She reached across the table and placed her hand over his, her touch gentle yet urgent. I know it hurts more than you can imagine. But Aaron recorded everything. You deserve to know the truth. Nathan stared at the flash drive. It held Aaron's final gift, evidence that could shatter lives. He thought of Marla's gentle smile, Layla's trembling courage, and Jeremy's uncanny loyalty. He felt the weight of choice settle on him, expose the truth and risk ruin, or bury the drive and live with unanswered questions. He picked up the drive and held it between them. The metal glinted in the morning light. His voice was a whisper. Then we'll finally know. Layla nodded, relief and fear mingling in her eyes. She drew back, letting him rise. Nathan stood and pressed a hand to his chest, steadying his racing heart. As he pocketed the drive, the room felt unbearably silent. Outside, the world carried on, blissfully unaware. But inside, two souls braced themselves for the storm of revelation that was about to break. And somewhere deep in the files, Marla's spirit waited for justice to be served. Nathan woke to the gray light of dawn creeping through the curtains. The house was still, but his mind churned with anticipation. Last night's revelation, that Jeremy could be the passenger in Marla's final ride, haunted him. He dressed quickly, his fingers trembling as he laced his shoes. The locket's chain felt heavy around his chest when he touched it, Layla's gift resting against his skin. He needed answers. Downstairs, he found Layla waiting in the kitchen, her dark eyes shadowed with exhaustion and worry. A freshly brewed pot of coffee steamed on the counter, and beside it lay the small flash drive labeled EB Records. She gestured toward the drive. I'm ready when you are, she said softly. Nathan nodded, swallowing hard. Let's do it, he replied, voice steady despite the storm inside him. They sat at the dining table with mugs in hand and Nathan's ever-present laptop open before them. The drive slipped easily into the USB port, and on screen appeared a folder tree, dashcam footage, audio logs, emails, transcripts. Layla swallowed. Which one first? She whispered. Nathan took a breath. Dashcam, he decided. He clicked the folder, and a loop of video thumbnails popped up, each marked with a date and time. He selected the first clip, the night of the accident. The screen flickered, and soon they watched rain-slicked pavement illuminated by Aaron's headlights. Marla's car appeared ahead, spun off the road. Nathan's hand shook as he paused the video. He scrolled frame by frame in slow motion, the jacket stitching, the gate. He knew that walk. Next, he opened audio logs. A clip labeled Post-Crash Confession. He braced himself. A voice trembled. Marla, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. The tone was familiar, laced with panic and guilt. Nathan's throat tightened. He recognized the cadence, the timbre, Jeremy's voice. Layla covered her mouth. Tears welled. Is that? She whispered. He nodded, face pale. He was there. They paused, letting the moment settle. Then Nathan clicked emails. The first message was time-stamped 3 days after the accident, drafted to himself, subject line, my darkest secret. He opened it. I panicked that night. I thought if I stayed I'd be blamed. I left her to save myself. I can't live with this anymore. No signature, but the writing matched Jeremy's known emails. Nathan's hands balled into fists. He pressed next, revealing a chain of messages between Jeremy and an unknown recipient, discussing a plan to keep the truth buried. Layla's voice was small. Erin captured audio of your confrontation too. She recorded everything. She clicked a folder marked transcripts. A text file opened, displaying a conversation between Erin and Jeremy on the night of Marla's accident. Erin, I saw him get out. I know who you are. Jeremy, you don't understand, I had no choice. Erin, you killed her. Jeremy, it was an accident. Erin, I will never forgive you. Jeremy, I will pay for this. Nathan closed his eyes, swallowing the bile rising in his throat. The evidence was irrefutable. Jeremy had confessed in writing, in audio, and Erin had documented it all. His best friend, his brother in everything but blood, had abandoned Marla to die and then hidden in silence. His chest ached with betrayal. Layla reached across the table, her hand hovering over his. She hesitated, then placed her fingers lightly on his wrist. I'm so sorry, she said. I never wanted you to be hurt like this. Nathan met her eyes, gratitude and grief colliding in his gaze. He focused on the drive in front of him, then on her trembling hand. Thank you for bringing this to me, he whispered. I couldn't have confronted this alone. He rose and began pacing, fists clenched at his sides. I trusted him. His voice cracked. He was the one I ran to when Marla died. He paused, staring at the flash drive. Now I see why Erin wanted justice. He turned to Layla. What do we do next? Layla stood to join him. We go to the police, she said firmly. We have everything they need. She swallowed. We could hand this over, let them arrest him, but... She trailed off, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. Nathan shook his head. I want him to confess. I need to see his face when he admits it. His voice hardened. And then I want justice. They returned to the table, gathering their courage. Layla backed up all the files onto a second drive. Nathan took meticulous notes, documenting each piece of evidence. Every timestamp, every line of the transcript, every frame of the video went into his notes. His grief had sharpened into purpose. As they worked, the sun climbed higher, and its rays streamed through the windows. The world outside seemed oblivious to the storm raging within Nathan's heart. When at last they finished, Nathan closed his notebook and exhaled, shoulders heavy with resolve. Layla watched him. How will you tell him? She asked quietly. Will you face him alone? He met her gaze. I want you there, he said. I don't want to be alone in this. She hesitated, then nodded. I'll be there. He pocketed both drives and his notes. The weight of them felt like armor. Tomorrow, he said, we bring him the truth. He exhaled as though releasing a held breath. And watch him break. Layla touched his arm. Whatever happens, she whispered, you won't face it alone. Nathan looked at her, his partner in this dark crusade, and offered a faint smile. It was the closest he had felt to hope in 3 years. They paused to consider the logistics. Legal counsel, Layla insisted, could protect them from counterattacks. Nathan, raw with betrayal, argued for immediacy. In the end, they drafted a tactical plan. Involve his lawyer friend Michael to witness the confrontation and record Jeremy's response. Layla printed transcripts and labeled them as exhibits. Nathan organized video stills into a timeline. The dining table transformed into a war room, evidence spread across its surface like battlefield intelligence. They even consulted online legal forums, prepared closing arguments, and discussed how to present each piece of evidence succinctly. They even rehearsed questions he would ask, imagining Jeremy's expression as the evidence emerged. Each scenario only steeled Nathan's resolve. Later, he composed a text to Jeremy, his thumbs hovering above the keys. Meet me at the old pier at noon. We need to talk. He paused, heart hammering. Was this justice or vengeance? Marla's laughter echoed in his memory, compassionate strength that might have cautioned restraint. Still, he felt her urging him forward. With a deliberate breath, he pressed send. Within seconds, his phone buzzed, read receipt delivered. The silence that followed was heavy with consequence. Layla squeezed his shoulder gently, silently vowing they would face the truth as one. His mind raced with possibilities: apology, confession, denial, or outright threat. Each option weighed on him like a physical burden. That night, Nathan replayed the dashcam footage one more time before bed. Each frame burned into his mind. Outside the window, the streetlights flickered, and the wind carried distant laughter from neighbors' homes. Inside, two wounded souls found strength in shared purpose. The camera's glow reflected in his eyes long after the screen went dark. As he turned off the laptop, Layla reached across and squeezed his hand. "Get some rest," she murmured. "Tomorrow is the day." He nodded, heart pounding with fear and anticipation. The door to his study closed softly, sealing in the secrets that would soon shatter their world. But for the first time in years, Nathan felt certain of one thing: the truth would finally set him free. Nathan's heart pounded as he approached the old pier at the dock's end, where salt breezes mixed with the cries of gulls. Noon sunlight danced across rippling water, mocking the turmoil inside him. He carried 2 USB drives and a folder of transcripts in a manila envelope. His lawyer friend, Michael, waited nearby, phone recording. Layla stood at his side, silently offering strength. Together, they formed a small phalanx, united by grief and the promise of justice. Moments later, Jeremy strode along the weathered planks, eyes narrowing when he saw them. His posture was rigid, shoulders hunched as though braced against a blow. When he reached them, he paused, gaze flicking from Michael's smartphone to Layla's imploring face, finally resting on Nathan's. Silence stretched and contracted like a held breath. Nathan inhaled and spoke with quiet resolve. "Thank you for coming, Jeremy." His voice betrayed no anger, only an aching sadness. "You owe me truth." Jeremy swallowed. "Nathan," his voice cracked. "What is this about?" Nathan held up the folder. "Aaron recorded everything that night. Dashcam footage, transcripts of your confession, emails you drafted confessing guilt." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "I believed you were my friend. I trusted you after Marla's death. She trusted you. And you left her helpless on that road." Jeremy's face blanched. He lifted a trembling hand. I panicked. She was dying. I thought staying would implicate me in her death." Layla stepped forward, voice firm. "Marla was your passenger. She was alive when you left. Aaron saw you walk away, heard you apologize. Aaron tried to uphold the law, and then died without seeing justice. Now we have her testimony." Michael cleared his throat, holding up his phone. "I'm recording this conversation for legal integrity." Jeremy's gaze shifted to the smartphone, then back to Nathan. Tears glistened in his eyes. "I didn't know what to do. The accident was my fault. I swerved to avoid debris, lost control. Marla's car clipped mine, spun off the road. She was hurt and I froze." His voice shook. "I didn't mean to abandon her, but I was terrified." Nathan gripped the folder so tightly that the paper crinkled. Terrified of consequences. She was left alone in pain, bleeding from her head. She deserved help. You walked away as though nothing mattered. Jeremy's shoulders dropped. "Tell me what you want from me." Nathan exchanged a glance with Layla and Michael. He closed his eyes, stealing his emotions. When he spoke again, his voice was steady. Confession before the authorities. A full statement, admitting your role. Public apology. And you turn yourself in. Jeremy's eyes filled with remorse. "I will," he whispered. "I will confess. But I need to protect my family." Layla shook her head. "No more hiding. Aaron's recordings demand justice. Your family will understand the truth even if you refuse to face it." Jeremy nodded, tears streaming. He lowered his head. "I accept. I'm sorry, Nathan. I'm so sorry." He turned toward the phone. "This is Jeremy Anderson, admitting that on the night of December 4th, I was driving the vehicle that collided with Marla Jameson. I left her at the scene, and I deeply regret my actions." His voice quavered but held. I am ready to accept responsibility. Michael nodded and turned off the recording feature. They will have everything. Nathan exhaled, tension leaving his shoulders. Layla reached for his hand. He turned to her, seeing relief mixed with sorrow in her eyes. Together they had unearthed long-buried truth. Together they would begin to heal. As they left the pier, a cool wind carried the promise of closure along the water, tugging at loose strands of hair and scattering seagulls into the clear sky. Nathan watched Jeremy guided into a waiting squad car by detectives summoned by Michael. He stood rooted, every sense attuned to the image of his former friend now facing accountability. He felt the bitter relief of justice unfolding. Behind him, Layla set a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Come on," she urged softly. "Let's go pay our respects." They drove in near silence to the tranquil cemetery where Marla's grave lay beneath a spreading oak. The ground was damp from morning dew, and wildflowers brushed the tombstone's base. Nathan placed a single white rose at the edge of the slab. He knelt, fingertips brushing Marla's etched name. He whispered, "I wish you could see this, love. At last, the truth has a voice." Layla knelt beside him, tears glinting in her eyes. "She would be proud of you," she said. Nathan stood and embraced Layla, the weight of years lifting in that embrace. They lingered until the sky deepened with sunset, then left the cemetery hand in hand. Back home, the world felt softer, as though shadows had receded. Layla brewed tea in the kitchen, the kettle's whistle sounding like a victory call. Nathan sat at his desk, opening the laptop. His fingers hovered above the keys. The woman who came for sugar, that bright promise still floated at the edge of his mind. He took a sip of tea and began typing the first paragraph, each word a tribute to Marla's memory and Aaron's courage. Hours passed unnoticed as he wrote, his grief alchemized into prose. By midnight, he had finished a rough chapter outline. His eyes burned with exhaustion and purpose. He leaned back, stretching, then reached to his bookshelf and pulled out a blank journal. He penned a heartfelt dedication, for Marla, whose love still lights my path, and for Aaron, whose bravery gave her a voice. He closed the journal and whispered aloud, "It begins anew." In the days that followed, Nathan refined the manuscript, emailed it to his agent, and received swift encouragement. The publisher was moved by the raw honesty, urging him to complete the story within weeks. Meetings, edits, and photo shoots filled his schedule. Layla stayed by his side, arranging tea, proofreading chapters, and offering gentle feedback. Their bond deepened, forged in truth and shared loss. Finally, on a crisp autumn morning, Nathan signed the final page. The novel was complete. Standing in the small office, he held the printed manuscript aloft. "It's done," he announced to an empty room, voice thick with triumph and relief. Later that afternoon, Layla and Nathan returned to the pier, this time for celebration. They watched the sun glint on water, sipping hot chocolate. No lawyers, no evidence, only two souls at peace. Layla rested her head on Nathan's shoulder. The breeze whispered around them, carrying the distant laughter of children playing along the shore. Evening fell, and the city lights blinked on. They walked home side by side, content in their new beginning. That night, as they prepared for bed, a familiar sound echoed, a polite, gentle knock on the front door. Nathan looked at Layla, eyebrows raised. He padded barefoot to the door and opened it to find Layla on the stoop, holding a fresh bag of coffee beans with a grin. "You forgot to return the favor," she teased. "I'm out of coffee." He laughed, genuine and full of warmth. "Come in," he said. She stepped through, measuring cup in hand, and they shared a quiet moment in the soft glow of the hallway light. Later, as they settled in the living room by the window, Nathan placed the measuring cup on the windowsill. It caught moonlight like a beacon of hope. Layla leaned into him, and they watched stars shimmer above the street. In that moment, they knew whatever dawn would bring, they would face it together, armed with truth, love. The end. Love the story? Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and become part of the Brandon Tales family. Your support helps us bring more powerful African tales to life. Thanks for watching. We can't wait to share the next one with you. See you soon.